Hello, welcome to another 3D market commentary. I'm just moving my mic closer to me so you guys can hear me okay. So welcome to another 3D market commentary. It is Friday, so hopefully you guys have had a good trading week and it's gone well so far. So I'm just going to put the disclaimers on the board first, and whilst those are on, it's important that you guys read it. Of course, you can come back and read them later if you can't follow it now. It is important that you guys read the disclaimers. My name is Becky, just in case you didn't know. It's kind of everywhere on the screen, but you've got my my email address there on its side, so if you do that you'll see it, becky@tradictive.com. You've also got this link here, which is tradewithufos.com/Becky. Now, I'm about to go through the 3D market commentary and I'll explain what it is. Partly what it is going through mostly of what it is going through an email that we send out every day. We send out an email every day that has information on 5 of the major markets in the world. And then we explain it every day. It's either me or my colleague Boyan. We explain it every day for 15-20 minutes to just give you guys more context as to how we came up with those numbers, where those figures came from. So why is this link helpful? Because if you're not already subscribed, let me just bring it up. If you're not already subscribed to a free membership, you can use that link to come and subscribe for a free membership. And then from that point, you'll be able to get this news flash that I'm about to go through every day. It will come through automatically as a subscription. So you can just set up your name and email and just go through, click the next steps to set up your free membership. There's also this area here. So once you have a free membership, you can ask a question once you're logged in. You can ask a question in a public space. So what that means is if you're confused by something that one of us says, if you have questions that obviously to do with trading or to do with any of the sessions that we do, asking by email is absolutely fine and we're happy to answer and help you, but asking in public helps other people learn from the answer. So just scroll down. There are other questions here that other people have asked before and answers that are attached to it. So it may be that the question you have, the answer is already here. So it saves you waiting for a response. It may be that the question you have is a new question and then somebody else would benefit from being able to see that answer publicly. So again, get yourself set up with a free membership. It doesn't literally take like a few seconds. And then you can ask questions publicly, which is helpful for the entire community to learn from each other. So that's the link there, tradewithufos.com/Becky, and that's where you'll get your free membership. Okay, so moving on to what we are going to do today, which is having a look. So this is the email that comes out every day. It's called a 3D market commentary. Now, why is it 3D? It's because we look at 3 major elements here of our markets. So the first thing we look at is called market climate. Market climate essentially means in which direction do we have more probabilities? Do we have more probabilities up? Do we have more probabilities down? Or maybe do we have not enough probabilities either way? We use our Auto Climate app, which is this app here, to help us with that. If it comes back with a thick blue dot, that tells us we have a confirmed upwards climate probability to the upside. If we have a thick red dot, that tells us confirmed downwards climate probability to the downside. If it's a thin dot of either colour, it means that we don't have enough probabilities either way. So we use our market climate, our auto climate, to help us figure out where we have probabilities. And we're using technology to help us be as objective as possible here. By the way, the Auto Climate app is a free app. Once you have your free membership, you can download it. We also want to look at buy and sell UFOs. So UFOs, although they look like little flying saucers, we can see that there. UFO actually stands for unfilled order. What that means is we are using a piece of technology, the AutoUFO app, to scan through the market and come back and show us a range of price where there are likely to be big stacks of buy orders and big stacks of sell orders. Why is that important? If we have big stacks of buy orders, they are often likely to push price upwards. If we have big stacks of sell orders, they are likely to push price downwards. So being able to see visually on a chart where those orders are between what prices in a range is really helpful for us to pinpoint where we might want to get in or out of our trades. So we'll have a look at those for each market. By the way, we are looking at these charts on a daily chart for each of these markets. So what that means is obviously different things happen on different time frames. If you use much smaller time frames or much bigger time frames, things might be different. When it comes to a daily chart, that's what we're going to be looking at, and this is the technology that we'll be using, our Auto Climate and our Auto UFOs. We're then going to also look at market volatility, which is basically how fast we can expect price to go up or down within given periods of time. So it gives us an idea of how quickly it's going to move, which gives us an idea of where the risk might be, or whether or not we've got enough reward on the table as well. So those are the three elements of our 3D approach that we're going to go through per market. We're going to start with the S&P. So let me just get that up on the chart there. Okay. So we are using continuous futures contracts for all of these. So essentially, for those of you that don't know what futures are, we are looking at representations of these markets. So this is the futures contract that represents the S&P 500, essentially a representation of the US stock market. That's what we're looking at here. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll down to the first bit there. And we can see from this on our market climate, we have an unconfirmed, upwards climate, meaning we have there a thin blue dot. So yes, it's blue, so there's maybe a little bit of movement to the upside there, but it's not confirmed. It's not a thick dot, which means we don't have enough probabilities to call it an upwards climate, which means we keep away. We don't want to be getting involved in trades where we don't have enough probabilities. It's already hard enough in the markets competing with everything else that's going on. Why place trades and waste time and money if we don't have enough probabilities, at least one way or the other? So when it comes to the S&P, no probabilities either way, really. Now, when it comes to stats, the stats on our auto climate, what these tell us is how long that market usually moves in that direction for, and how long we've currently been moving in that direction. So from those two numbers, we can figure out if we have probability for a continuous move one way or the other. Now, of course, this is an unconfirmed climate, so we'd have to wait for it to confirm itself before we would get into a trade. But it just tells us here that usually this market would go up for 8.84 candles. I'm just going to round that up to 9. Whatever the decimal place is on these, by the way, I'm always going to round it up. So usually this market goes up for 9 candles, and we're on candle number 3, which means if it confirms itself, we do have probability of a continuous move to the upside. At the moment, it's not confirmed, so it's kind of irrelevant. But if it were to confirm itself, at least we know that we have, based on what usually happens, more probability of a continuous move up. Now, when it comes to buy and sell UFOs, we have no sell UFOs. That's because we're almost at all-time highs, which means there's not enough data above us to be able to get sell order information. So no sell UFOs. We do have a buy UFO, and that's this one here, which is 3878.75 to 3796.25. That's the closest stack of buy orders, and that's the range of price there that we can see on the chart. So that's UFOs. Then when it comes to market volatility, we can see that in one day, we would expect movement up or down of 54.01 points. In 1 week, we'd expect movement up or down of 118.90 points. And in 1 month, we'd expect movement up or down of 247.51 points. Now again, when it comes to volatility, it's not exact. None of this is exact. It's about probabilities, and it's about what we can expect based on statistics. So it's unlikely to move exactly 54.01 points up or down within 1 day. It just gives us an idea of what's more likely to happen. And again, the volatility numbers are up or down. So it could move 54.01 points up or 54.01 points down, or thereabouts. So how do we use that to be helpful? Well, we combine it with our auto climate and our auto UFOs to help us figure out in which direction that is more likely to happen. So we combine these three things again to give us probabilities. Nothing is guaranteed. We still got to manage our risk. But again, we'd rather be trading where we have statistics on our side and probability on our side. Okay, so overall with the S&P, not a confirmed climate, so something we would keep away from, at least on this time frame. Okay, moving on to the next market, which is crude oil. So let's just bring that up here. Again, this is the futures contract of crude oil. So it's a representation of crude oil, shall we say. There we go. Okay, so just before I go into that, just to say, you might be watching this thinking, you've already taken one of our courses and maybe you want to now learn a different market, or you want to learn how to back test your strategy, or you want to understand psychology. You might be somebody that's completely new to this and you've never traded at all, in which case, whether you learn from us or somebody else, learn somewhere how to trade and what a methodology could be and how to test it. You can browse our courses there. And just to say, our courses come with a 3-month complimentary access to the apps. So Auto Climate is already a free app, but Auto UFOs, depending on which platform you use, comes at a cost. I'll explain that in a minute. So they come for 3 months free as part of your courses if you were to take a course, for most of them. Okay, so looking at crude oil, when it comes to the climate, we have a confirmed upwards climate. We can see that because we have a thick blue dot, which tells us probability to the upside. In terms of stats, we see that usually this market would go up for 7 candles. Again, I'm just rounding it up. and we're currently on the 7th candle, which means we have come to the end of what is a usual move to the upside. Not to say we won't surpass it. Of course, averages and probabilities and statistics come from data that falls either side. We could fall short of what is normal. We could go past what is normal. The point of this is that we understand roughly what is normal so that we're not getting into a trade way too late. At the moment, we've come to the end of what is normal, but we still have a confirmed upwards climate and we don't have sell orders for a little way. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this go to maybe 8 or 9, maybe a little bit more. But of course, the further it goes past what is normal, the less likely it is to keep happening. The more you pull an elastic band, the less likely it is to allow you to keep pulling, the more likely it is to contract back on itself. So it's the same kind of principle here that we need to make sure we understand about climate. So overall, confirmed upwards climate, probability to the upside. Not as many probabilities as we'd like because we don't have probability of a continuous move, but overall still probability to the upside. Now, when it comes to buy and sell UFOs, we have sell UFOs just here. That's our little red UFO that tells us the price range where we have sell orders. So the numbers for that are 68.46 to 69.19. We then have some buy orders, which are there and shown to us here with our little green UFO. Numbers for that are 57.29 to 54.81. We are closer to the sell UFO. Again, if we hit the sell UFO, would expect to fall from there. That's what UFOs do. They often push price in the direction that you expect. At the moment though, still a little bit of room before we hit that, and overall probability to the upside. Now when it comes to volatility, we would expect a movement up or down in one day of 1.57 points. In 1 week, it would be up or down of 3.45 points. And in 1 month, up or down of 7.19 points. Okay, so that's crude oil. Let's move on to the next market. So just scrolling down here, the next market is gold. So let's have a look at that. Just taking a sec there to load. There we go. Okay, so let's have a look at gold. Again, I'm just going to squidge price a little bit here so we can see all our UFOs. There we go. Again, just to say, I said before that the AutoUFOs come for free as part of most of our courses for 3 months. You might be somebody that's already taken courses, you already know how to trade, you already know the methodology, and maybe you just want to get the app and you just want to use it to help you with your trading. You can subscribe to the app directly. Depending on which platform you use depends on the cost. If you're using TradingView, which is the one that I'm using right now, then it's $34 per month to use that app, or you can get yearly discounts as well. Okay, so when it comes to gold, let's have a look here. We have a confirmed downwards climate. We see that because we have, it's actually just turned blue there. So we did have a thick red dot, which tells us that we have a probability to the downside. But actually at the moment, we have a sort of unconfirmed market, unconfirmed climate. So again, just bear that in mind, that we were going down for quite a bit on our gold chart. We'd actually gone down past what is usual. Normally this market would go down for 7 candles, and we're on candle number 12. So again, we've gone past what is usual, which means more likely to expect a change in direction. And that's actually what we've seen. We've seen it now go to unconfirmed. If it's unconfirmed, we keep away. So just bear that in mind. So not enough probabilities on gold either way. When it comes to buy and sell UFOs, we have sell UFOs up here. The numbers for that are 1782.2 to 1815.2. And then we have buy orders just here. The numbers for that, or the range of price that we see those in, are 1652.8 to 1624.4. So those are where we have our stats of orders. When it comes to market volatility, we see that we would expect movement up or down in one day of 19.57 points. In 1 week, movement up or down of 43.07 points. And in 1 month, a movement up or down of 89.66 points. Again, that's up or down. We'd use our climate and UFOs to help figure out in which direction. At the moment, we have unconfirmed climate, sort of not really either way. When it comes to climate, UFOs were not really close enough to either to really see much movement from them. New UFOs could, of course, come in. New orders can come into the market and change things. At the moment, hard to call with gold on many counts. Okay, so moving on to the next market. Before we do that, just to say, you might be somebody that has already taken courses, maybe you don't want to take courses, maybe you're using the apps, maybe you're not, but maybe you just want to watch people that know what they're doing with these apps and that are applying that methodology. Maybe you want to watch them in the markets, placing trades in options, futures, forex, stocks, cryptos as well, that'll come a bit later. So you can sign up for our coaching. It's only $21 a month, or you can get yearly discounts as well, where you can follow us and you can join us on our coaching. We also do some coaching for free on YouTube as well, so you can follow us there if you'd like. I'll explain that in a second. Okay, so coming on to the next market, which is the dollar, the US dollar. Now the dollar is, I think fair to say, the most influential market in the world because it is responsible for about 80% of transactions worldwide every single day. So whether you trade the dollar directly or not, whether you trade currency pairs that it's against or not, be aware of what the dollar does. It will impact all of the other markets that we look at in the commentary as well as others. So just be aware of it. So when it comes to the dollar, we have a unconfirmed down climate. And we can see that because it's a thin red dot. So again, we had a confirmed upwards climate. It was moving to the upside. It's actually come down and just hit this UFO. And it's reacted to this UFO. See, it came down, it hit the top of that line, and then it started to move upwards. That's what we expect UFOs to do. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that push it and continue it to another upwards trend there. But we'll see. So at the moment, we don't have probabilities either way. Considering it's a red dot, normally this market would go down for 6 candles. Again, rounding that up. We're on candle number 1. So it could be, if it confirms itself, that it has a little bit of move to the downside. But we've just hit that UFO, so I'd be expecting more so that we would see a move to the upside. Again, just based on probabilities. Now, the buy UFO that we have, that's this one here. The numbers are 91.405 to 90.635. And again, we're already seeing that work and push price up. The sell UFO is this one here. That's 93.245 to 94.330. So again, we have a little bit of room before price would hit that UFO. So again, a little bit of room for it to move to the upside. Of course, things change in the markets. We can have new orders come in. At the moment, I would say we're likely to see this change back into a confirmed upwards climate, but we'll see, I guess, by Monday what happens there. Now, when it comes to volatility on the dollar, we would expect movement up or down in one day of 0.38 points. In 1 week, up or down of 0.83 points. And in 1 month, up or down of 1.72 points. So that's the US dollar. Now moving on to the last market. Again, just to say, we have a YouTube channel where we do coaching and we go through markets and things for free. So you can join us there. We trade all kinds of different markets. We go into different elements of psychology and the methodology as well. So you can follow us on YouTube. The coaching that we have, which is the paid for coaching in the closed rooms, you have access to more of our time more often. So that's the difference there, but the content is going to be the same. Okay, so when it comes to Bitcoin, let's have a look. Back to Bitcoin, that is now our final market of the day. That's the one that we're looking at. Now, of course, Bitcoin is a volatile market. We should be aware of that. We'll come to that in a second. Let's just have a look at the climate. We have a thick blue dot, confirmed upwards climate, probability to the upside. Now, normally, we don't actually know what happens in this market. It's not been around long enough for us to have the data on this time frame to say what usually happens. Usually goes up this amount, usually goes down this amount. We don't know. And again, to just call out a number would be to make it up based on not enough data. So we're kind of in the dark at the moment as to how long this market would usually go up or down for. But just be aware, we're on candle number 5. Like anything, the longer it goes up, however, whatever the normal is, the longer it goes up, the more likely it is to change direction and come down. But we've seen with Bitcoin that it can go up for quite a long time before it changes. So overall probability there to the upside with Bitcoin. Now, when it comes to UFOs, again, no sell UFOs above us, kind of like the first market we looked at, which was the S&P. We had no sell data above us. The closest buy UFO is this one here, and that's 52,600 on the dot to 49,602.5. That's where we have the closest stack of sell orders there. Now, when it comes to volatility, we would expect a movement up or down in one day of 3,698.50, and that's quite a lot compared to other markets. In a week, we would expect movement up or down of 8,141.87, and in 1 month, a movement up or down of 16,948.65. Again, those are reasonably big numbers based on if you take it as a percentage of the current value. Just be aware of it. It's not necessarily good or bad, it just is. If you're on the right side of volatility, that's a good thing. If you're on the wrong side of volatility, it's a bad thing. Just be aware of that. It can increase your risk a little bit. It can also increase your reward. So as a trader, as an individual person, you'll know where you stand on risk tolerance. So just be aware of that if you're going to enter Bitcoin and cryptos, that your risk tolerance does need to be a little bit higher because the volatility is a little bit higher. Now, speaking of volatility, that actually brings me nicely to the weekly economic calendar. Now we go to the FX Street, I'm just going to highlight that there, the FX Street economic calendar, and then what we do from that is we highlight high impact news. Now, we want to know high impact news on major markets in the world, not necessarily because we want to make a decision based on what the news is. That would be a subjective interpretation of news. We don't want to make trading decisions based on subjective interpretations. We want to use objective data and technology and statistics to give us an edge in the markets. But the reason that we want to understand the news, or what's coming out in the news, is because if we have high impact news coming out, that's likely to create volatility, which again could increase your risk, could increase your reward. So you might interpret that to say, okay, if I have high impact news, let's say, for example, today, what's left to come out, maybe a couple of things on the Canadian dollar and the US dollar. Maybe you say, okay, I'm going to avoid those markets today. Maybe you say, I'm going to place less trades than I would normally on that. Maybe you say, I'll place the same amount of trades, but I'm just going to reduce my risk percentage. Maybe you ignore it entirely. Maybe you say, I'm going to not trade it at all. Entirely up to you how you interpret that. But just understand that there is going to be high impact news that could cause volatility in those markets. And then it's up to you to react to that, to manage your risk in the way that suits you best. So that is me for the end of today and the end of the week. Just to make one little comment here. Of course, you might have questions based on what I've covered, based on different markets. Should I be trading Bitcoin? Should I be looking at the US dollar? Should I be trading futures of things? Or should I be trading Forex? Should I be trading stocks? Should I be trading combinations? Should I not be trading at all? Should I use these apps? Is it better for me to just use one or the other? If I combine it with something else? Whatever. You might have loads of questions. You are welcome to self-schedule a clarification call with us to talk through the different courses that we do, the different apps that we have, the coaching, and figure out what might work for you. It might be that none of it works for you. But again, you can have a chat with somebody and figure that out. Okay, so that's me done. That's the end of today's session, the end of the week's session. So we'll be back on Monday. I'll be back on Monday morning to talk about the probabilities that we see in the markets for Monday morning. In the meantime, guys, hope you guys have a great finish to the week in your trading, a great weekend, and I will see you on Monday. Take care. Bye-bye.